Hi guys, it's Mark Knights from the RPG Knights. Decided to do a video review based on the new Players Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons. The reason that I've done this via a video is because I could write probably a novel with what I want to say about it. Now, 5th edition, you all know me pretty much as a Pathfinder guy. So, take this review with a pinch of salt if you want, but I started with the 5th edition sort of stuff with the starter set. I have a player in my in-person game who is just dead set Dungeons and Dragons is the way to go. Dungeons and Dragons, oh look, you can call things evades, black tentacles and stuff like that rather than just grasping tentacles or whatever they become in Pathfinder. Now, I'm not, I've played a lot of the versions of D&D, in fact I can't think of a version that I haven't played. And it's a good game and it's where the hobby started, and so I said I'd give it a go and tried to keep an open mind. So let's get into it. This book came to me probably about 2.5-3 weeks ago. Picked it up, looked at it. This is a beautiful book. Okay, the artwork is fantastic, despite the halflings. But it is a totally beautiful book. There's just a random flip open page. Beautiful book. Okay, this, they've obviously put a lot of work into this in making sure that it is presented perfectly, looks wonderful, makes people go ooh and ah when they pick it up, and it certainly does that. There is no doubt about it. There are, from the equipment pages, favouriteest page probably of the entire book, believe it or not, is that page there. Okay, I love seeing weapons drawn in pencils, sort of like sketch, so that really got me. But the book is filled with sort of action scenes and beautiful pictures of characters. I've seen a lot of comments online about how it's, these are adventurers, how they should look rather than the anime style. I don't mind either way. The art to me, as long as it looks good, looks pretty. This book is full colour, same as most of the Pathfinder books. Okay, this is a fantastic book. Interesting touch on the back. Okay, it's a nice shiny book, but on the back they've got this matte section, and don't know why they did that. That's where the writing went in. I don't know whether there is a purpose to it, but just feeling that, actually, it feels really nice. I really love the feel of this book. Okay, so that's about enough of how it looks. Let's talk about the content. I've now read this book from cover to cover. Okay, so quite keen to get into it. I have been running the 5th edition starter set. Mine's a Fandelver. I've been running it with 2 groups. I've been running it with my regular in-person group, and I've also been running it with a group of students here at the school. And it plays really well. It's fun. It's a great game. It's light, it's fast moving. When I was playing with the starter set, didn't really need to look at many of the rules. Everything was flowing pretty well. I'll give you the proviso that I looked at the next stuff when it was out and about, and I had a look at it and I read through it and I thought this looks like it's going to play fairly well. And I tried to get a game together, but I couldn't, so I was a bit disappointed with that. However, I've now read through the Players Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons. I don't call it Advanced Dungeons and Dragons anymore, but there is a basic version on the web that you can have a look at. There's good and bad in here, and I want to talk to both of those. First one, on an overall sort of thing, this book is very dry to read. Okay, now I know a lot of you just rolled your eyes at me and went, well, what do you expect? It's a role-playing book. There are role-playing books that are fun to read. This one wasn't. Okay, a fun book to read is this. Okay, Fate Core. I've read this book 4 times. Not because I wanted to read it 4 times, but because I'd pick it up, I'd have a bit of a read and then I'd think, I might just keep reading this. And it's because it's written in that style that you can just keep reading. There's a lot of rules in here, there's a lot of details, but it fills it full of examples and interesting bits and pieces and stuff like that. It's presented really well in a nice package, and it's just a joy to read. Okay, so you really need to take a couple of ideas from this style book and go, hey, we can make our role-playing games present the rules as well as be interesting to read, and that's what Fate does really well. Fate's a great game. I'm not going to say it's the best game in the world. It's definitely not the best game for every gaming table, but it's dry to read. However, that said, most D&D books in the past have been. Now, when I went through this book, I did it with this in companion. I had a look at the second edition, and I had Pathfinder with me as well. I don't have any of my third edition stuff anymore, because I sold it all in disgust. I didn't get into 3.5 because I thought it was just a money grab, and didn't really look at what they'd done with 3.5 until I looked at Pathfinder, which I was put onto when I was playing 4th edition. 4th edition don't have any of that stuff anymore either, and it's not really... there are aspects of 4th edition in this book, but it's not really a direct sort of translation, and I can understand why some people that are into 4th edition feel a little bit cheated by the new edition. That said, let's have a bit of a flick through the classes to start with. I'll be doing it on my lap. I won't be showing you as we go. The races, all fine, no worries. Halflings look silly, but enough has been said about that. You either like them or you don't, or you can get over it. Whatever. Let's have a look through here. The Barbarian, okay. It's a solid Barbarian approach. When I started reading this though, they give you 2 Barbarian paths to take. And I started to think, that's not many, 2 paths. They talk about how, in this, you can have 2 characters of the same class and they won't feel the same. Now, I've run, as I said, Mines of Phandelver, I'm still running it, with 2 groups. And in that Mines of Phandelver, I forced the players. I said to them, you're going to use the pre-gens. And we used the pre-gens, and both of the fighters feel the same. Now, I've had to talk to one of the other writers here on RPG Nights, Cameron Cornick, about this. And he rightfully, he sort of pointed out to me, the span of it doesn't really come until 3rd level where you break out, and I've only got a group that's just gone to 3rd level, but they still feel sameish. Even with different backgrounds and stuff like that, they still feel sameish. Sure, one of them's an archer, one of them's an upfront fighter, but it feels sameish. Barbarian has two paths that you can take. Path of the Berserker and something about the totem animals is a path of the totem warrior. Okay? Yep, fair enough. Seemed a bit light on for me. Then there's the Bard. The Bard's a really interesting class. I like the Bards a lot. Probably my favourite class. There are, though, Bard colleges. Like when they talk in here that it doesn't need to be a college, but it's called Bard colleges. And again, there's only 2 options here. 2 streams that you can take your Bards down. When I hit that, I was happy with the Bard, so I overlooked it to a little degree. Now, clerics. One of the wonderful things that they've done with this book is they've added a whole heap of pantheons in as an appendix at the back. Okay, so when I say pantheon, I mean gods of different areas. We've got Eberron, Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, but they haven't just done those. They've also done Celtic, or Celtic, however you want to say it, Greek deities, Egyptian deities, Norse deities. They've really sort of expanded that, and that's really nice. That's such a step up from Pathfinder, which I would love to have seen some different options in there. But clerics. This is where I started to get the feel that this Players Handbook is different to all the other Players Handbooks that I've ever had. All the other Players Handbooks that I've ever had, when I've read from cover to cover, I felt there's a complete game. I could play that game for 2 years and not need another source book. This, the cleric has, okay, we all know that clerics get domains and stuff like that. The cleric has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 domains. 7 domains. Second edition handbook didn't have domains per se, but they had spheres of power. 16 of them. Pathfinder, 33 domains. Okay, this is screaming to me that they are likely to bring out a lot more domains in a source book or a supplemental book, and that really irritates me. I want to be able to play a cleric from the start with all the bells and whistles. Okay, source books in other games and in other versions of this particular game have brought in subdomains and new sort of details, but not new domains, and I've got the feeling that that's going to happen. So we'll move on, we'll have a look at the Druid. The Druid's pretty cool. Somebody mentioned that picture there reminds them of the Pathfinder Druid, because it's a girl with a cat. Yes, it's a girl with a cat, could even be a gnome girl with a cat, but, you know, there might be similarities, they're based on the same game. It's all good. Okay, so the Druid has these options of using circles, of, you know, druidic circles and stuff like that. Oh, guess what? There's only 2 in here. The fighters are pretty good in here, I've got to say. They try to offer you quite a few sort of manoeuvres and stuff like that. They give you the archetype of the champion, the battle master. And I think that might be a bit of a response, and I'll talk to this again in a little bit of time. I think that might be a bit of a response to the problems or the balance between magic and fighting. We move on to the monk. Now the monk's a monk. Okay, they are overpowered, ridiculous, bloody insane character class in every version that they've ever been included in. And good to see that they keep up the tradition. It's probably a bit harsh on the monks, but there you go. The monks are okay. You get monastic traditions in this. We've got Way of the Open Hand, and we've got Way of Shadow, we've got Way of the Four Elements. So there's 3. A nice, good mix. And I was talking to somebody else, and they said that, oh no, the monks are really quite good. Paladins, good. Like paladins. Paladins are a class that I often go to. They're one of my go-to classes because I love playing heroes with massive chins and self-righteousness. It might be just something about me. But they get oaths, and they have an oath of devotion, and they have an oath of the ancients, and they have an oath of vengeance. So a decent amount of range there. And ranges, as I said, I've read this book from cover to cover. I was trying to think back over the classes and think which ones were my favourite. And I couldn't remember anything about the Ranger, so I think they're probably a bit grey in there. And you get Ranger archetypes, and there's a Hunter and there's a Beastmaster, and I can see here that there's not a lot of space detailed to them. The Rogues are okay. They're quite good. They're not quite as skill focused as they were in previous generations, so I'd like to see a Rogue played well. But you get the Thief, and you get the Assassin, and you get the Arcane Trickster, chucking in the spell side of Rogues in it. Now, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. Sorcerer, Draconic Bloodline, Wild Magic. Wild Magic I like, love Wild Magic, but there's only 2 options there. The Warlock, you have different packs now. Could have gone absolutely nuts with the different types of packs here, but the other worldly patrons that you get are the Archfey, the Fiend, and the Great Old One. And that's pretty much it. Okay. And then there's the Wizard. Now, this version of D&D really suffers, I think. I think the Wizard really suffers here, in that the Wizard and the Sorcerer are pretty much the same class. They're just different flavours of one another. And I'm really disappointed by it. Like, I mean, the way you cast your spells is the same. Sure, you get different bloodline powers, and you can choose your different types of magic, your schools of magic. By the way, the Wizards, the ones with the 8 schools are all there, but they don't have the universal school anymore. But yeah, I really feel that they should have bandied the Sorcerer, the Warlock. The Warlock is done weirdly, but quite honestly, I felt they could have bandied those 3 together and just had them as flavour packages of one another. That's how not unique they all are from one another. So, but mind you, that is my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. Now, the personality and backgrounds. good ideas, these bonds and stuff like that. This is very, I'm going to say fate-ish. It's an idea that you take on a personality sort of thing that gives you a bonus if you play it well. That is written into a lot of games, but I always think of that as fate-ish, and I do like that. I do like that you have these bonds and your inspiration and your ideals and your flaws and stuff like that. I really like the way that they build that in to give you an idea and make you think about how you're going to play this character. And that's what this game, this version of D&D does better than any of the other versions. Okay, they ask some intelligent questions. They ask questions that really make you think about who you are and where you are in the world. So 2 thumbs up, Wizards of the Coast. That's exciting stuff. I'm really impressed with it. Inspiration is a really good idea. I'm a bit disappointed that it's limited to 1 inspiration. You can only have inspiration once at a time, okay, so you can't build them up, but that's okay. That's livable. Now, they talk about backgrounds and they give quite a few versions of backgrounds, but I thought that they were fairly short, but I can get why that is. But I have actually signed on to a guy's Patreon just so I could expand out those backgrounds. I've now got 30 backgrounds that my characters can choose from, because the ones that are here are good, but they're certainly not extensive, and I can see products coming out with extra backgrounds, and that's fine. I'm totally happy with that. Equipment chapter is really cool. Have been a bit disappointed with some of it in play, where somebody said, right, I use my grappling hook and throw a rope up and I'm going to climb up with that. What benefit does that give me? And you go to look at grappling hook in here, because I was thinking, oh, maybe it changes it from a, reduces the category of DC down from maybe difficult to moderate or whatever. And grappling hook's not even detailed. Rope is, but grappling hook not. So I made it up on the spot. That's what we DMs do. Nice idea of tools and different variety of sort of materials, and they talk about having to live from adventure to adventure. Okay, if you're the style of DM that says, okay, 3 months have passed, what are you doing in that 3 months' time? And you get them to pay out their livelihoods and stuff like that, then that's here. The other thing that I really love about this chapter, trinkets. Okay, fantastic. As a starting character, you can roll a D100 and you can have a trinket. Really doesn't do anything, and there's some weird stuff in here. Okay, one of the trinkets, a needle that never bends. Just little unique things. Okay, really quite nice, and they do mention in the book that the DM might use this, and yeah, heck yeah, why not? That fills up some things, so when somebody goes, oh, what's this goblin got on him, and he doesn't have a pocket full of gold or something like that, you can roll on the trinket table and go, oh, look, he's got a pipe in there that blows bubbles. Top stuff. Nice flavour. Customisation options, okay, I'm going to get really grumpy about this. Multi-classing sucks. There you have it. And the feats are too powerful, in my opinion. Okay, the feats, you take a feat if you don't want to take an attribute increase. Okay, and there's some feats in here that give you an attribute increase. Maybe not the +2 that you can get, but it increases it. Why? If you to choose a feat instead of an attribute increase, why build the attribute increase into the feat? I don't like it at all. I don't think it's there, and it's for things like, okay, you take on the lightly armoured proficiency so you can become proficient in armour. Yes, I am getting to the wizard thing in a moment. Increase your strength or dexterity score by 1. Why? You just learn how to use light armour. So why doesn't the fighter at the start, because there's one here for light armour, medium armour and heavy armour, why doesn't the fighter at the start of their career get +3 to strength? Because essentially they've learnt all those 3 things. It makes no sense. But there are some good feats here. I've got to say that I'm reasonably happy with these feats. I like things like Lucky, where you have 3 luck points and you can use those luck points to do various things. And Ritual Cast is nice, and there's some good feats in there. Okay, now I've said that about feats, I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about wizards. Okay, there's a conversation that goes on. I may have fueled that conversation and I'm about to fuel it again. People have told me that, wizards are multi-classing. Now, the thing that I get angry about here is that no player in my game, if we use multi-classing rules, is going to start as a wizard. They will start as a fighter, and in second level they'll go to wizard, and they'll go the rest of their levels all in wizard. Why? Because first level fighter gets proficiency in every form of armour and shields. Now, under the wizard spellcasting stuff, if you are proficient in your armour that you're wearing, there is no chance of failure. Okay. Why the first level are they going to be fighter? Well, the first level is because if you multi-class to fighter at any other level, you only get light armour, medium armour and shields, simple weapons and martial weapons proficiencies. Okay, so to get that heavy armour, so you can be a mage tank if you want, then you take one level in fighter and then you do the rest in wizards. Now, swapping over into wizard, no worries at all. You get the spells, you get the spell slots, it's all good. Somebody said, oh, but you lose spells. I looked at it. Okay, you lose 1 7th level spell, I believe. Okay, you lose 1 7th level spell and you lose the ability of signature spell. Signature spell gives you 2 3rd level spells that you can just cast without expending a slot. Big whoop. Other people have said that, oh no, if somebody wants to be a mage tank, then they will take the fighter's arcane. Eldritch Knight gets spellcasting. Yes, he does. Up to 4th level spells. 4th level spells. So being an Eldritch Knight is nothing like being a fighter, multi-class mage. There's just no comparison. So that's why I say multi-classing sucks. The wizard fighter thing is the biggest problem with it, but multi-classing on the whole sucks, and it really exposes how bad their spell system is. Okay, the next section is about part 2, playing the game. Very pretty bitchy. Let's move into there. Using ability scores is all good. I like this idea. I like linking them to your skills. I like the fact that your scores don't go through the roof. I like the fact that there aren't different types of balancing rules or putting bonuses together and popping them on top of each other, etc. I love that they've done this. Passive checks, they list out the skills. I feel that there are some skills missing. Thieves and opening locks is just done with a dexterity check. Yes, thieves get proficiency with their dexterity. So in essence, it's just like having the skill, but other characters, tough luck. I really thought that there should have been a skill for it, but that's just me. But generally, really easy rules, really quick to understand. Applying advantage and disadvantage where you don't know. By the way, advantage and disadvantage is probably the second best thing about this game. Roll 2 dice if you get advantage, take the highest version. Roll 2 dice, take the lowest version. D20s only. Movement is nice and simple, terrain, etc. All good. Social interaction is really well laid out. Food and water really well laid out. Resting really well laid out. The long rest, where you get all of your hit points back after an overnight, that's, with me, that's, I don't know. You know, it's like dumbing it down a little bit. It's making it very video gamey. I'm not sure that I like that terribly much, you know. There's no such thing as a long-term wound. Anyway, I can live with it. It's all good. Combat is one of the shortest chapters of the book, and rightfully so. They give you everything that you need here. Now, people will realise that I have a problem with some of the combat rules. 1, standing up from prone only costs half your movement and essentially has no negative effect to it at all. If you're fighting a one-on-one combat with a guy who's a fighter or something like that, there is no point for him knocking you down. The reason is you stand up with only half your movement and then you can hit him with your full attacks. It assumes that you can stand up and defend yourself, and that only takes half movement. Now, I don't like that at all. People are going, well, that assumes that there's attacks of opportunity. It's a fantasy game, people, but there has to be a penalty for falling over. And people go, well, there is, you lose half your movement. I'm going to house rule this in my game. The house rule will be, if you want to stand up and move away with no threat of an attack of opportunity, then you take the disengage action. You can stand up and you can move away. Okay, standing up takes you half your movement cost and you can stand away. That to me says that you're standing up and you're trying to defend yourself. The other part of this house rule will be, if you want to stand up and take an action, like hit them with a sword and stuff, attack of opportunity on you. Two simple rules, two simple house rules that make me happy about it. And that's what I'll be doing. Running around, I'm all good. Running around people, so, you know, you can move around in a combat, that's all good. I've come to terms with that, I'm happy. Happy. I don't think there's anything really else in here that makes me upset about it. In fact, I quite like it. It's all good. Everything's nice and succinct. But then we come to spellcasting. Spellcasting's okay. It's just the spells that suck. They've introduced this idea of concentration. Now, concentration is there in one form or another in some of the things where when you're casting the spell that somebody hits you, you might lose that spell. Make a concentration check. Okay, no worries. But now they've introduced into these spells that you have to concentrate on some of them. Okay? Locate creature. Describe or name a creature that is familiar with you. You sense the direction of the creature's location as long as that creature is within 1,000 feet of you, etc., etc. So you're trying to find a creature. The duration is concentration up to 1 hour. Now, while you're trying to find that creature, that means you cannot cast another spell that involves concentration, regardless of if you're 20th level or 1st level. You may only concentrate on one spell at a time. These spells are so underpowered compared to every other version of D&D, it really makes me wonder where they came from. Spells are normally something that I skip or skim in a book, but in this version of it I read them, as I said, from cover to cover. I read every spell and most of them I was shaking my head with. Why on earth would you limit your mage in this way? Now, there is a good side in that every damaging spell pretty much, especially in the first, from cantrip through to about 4th, 5th level, has been souped up incredibly. They do massive amount of damage and they're instantaneous on the whole. Although, I got pointed out one that also broke it for somebody else. Witch Bolt. It's a 1st level spell. Let's get that out there. Verbal, semantic, moderate, it's got range of 30 feet. Concentration up to a minute. A beam of crackling blue energy lances out towards a creature within range, forming a sustained arc of lightning between you and the target. So it's a lightning attack. On a hit, the target takes D12 lightning damage. And you, for the duration of concentrating upon that spell, you can use your action to deal D12 lightning damage to the target automatically on each of your turns. That is 10 turns of D12 damage for a 1st level spell. And at higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot at 2nd level or higher, the initial damage increases by D12 for each slot above 1st. So that means, as long as you get a hit on on whatever round, and say you put this into a 9th level slot, okay, you're a 20th level mage by then, or probably a 16th or 17th or something like that, you're looking at doing 9d12 every round automatically to the opponent that is from a 1st level spell. 1st level spell. At 1st level, okay, you do this, you cast this, and for 10 rounds, as long as you hit them with the 1st attack, you're doing 1d12 per round damage with a 1st level spell. Okay, so if you're going to be a magician or a wizard or something like that, be an evoker, because there is no reason why you wouldn't be, because all of the utility powers, okay, let's have been completely and utterly weakened to the point of ridiculousness. Stone skin, okay, pretty much a staple. Stone skin's now concentration, so you can't do anything else apart from concentrate on having stony skin. Where else have we got one? There are quite a few of these. Oh, yes, I'll get to that one in a minute. Okay. Enlarge, reduce. Concentration up to a minute. So you can make yourself bigger, but only for 10 turns. Where else are we? Just flicking through. Detect evil and good. Oh, this one's fantastic. Concentration for up to 10 minutes. So you can have 100 turns of concentrating, trying to find evil and good. Except, the fact is you're not actually looking for evil and good. You're looking for aberrations, celestials, elementals, fays, fiends, or undead. Okay, this spell reads, for the duration you know if there is an aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, fiend or undead within 30 feet of you, as well as where the creature is located. Similarly, you know if there is a place or object within 30 feet of you that has been magically consecrated or desecrated. Therefore, detect evil and good no longer detects evil alignments or good alignments. It detects creatures and spells. Okay, there's examples after examples after examples of this weakening of spells. It is just insane. Now, one of the things that I didn't realise when I went through the How to Cast Spells chapter, which is nice and short, was they did away with counterspelling and having a big mage battle. Now, in my experience, it's not used terribly much, so I was sort of like, once I came across something that reminded me, I sort of went, is that a big issue or not? I don't know. I'll let you be the deciders on that. However, before in previous editions, pretty much Pathfinder, 2nd edition, 1st edition, what you do to have a big wizard battle where you counter each other is you would either work out what spell the other person was casting and cast that same spell directly back at them, while holding your action, being the trigger that once he starts casting a spell, I'm going to try and work out what it is and cast it back at him, and they knock each other out. Okay, so if he's casting magic missile at you, you cast magic missile at him, they all meet in the middle and it does nothing. The other side was you could use Dispel Magic and attempt to have that reduce the spell. Now, so they don't have specific rules like that anymore, but they have a spell. And I thought, oh, okay, so that's how they're handling counterspelling now. And it's a spell called Counterspell. Quite honestly, I was waiting to read in the text, tap 2 islands, and the spell doesn't work, but Wizards of the Coast. Magic the Gathering joke there, people. But I seriously was thinking that at the time. It's a reaction, Counterspell, so that's good. That means you don't need to say, I'm going to have a trigger event of when that person starts casting a spell. You can use Counterspell. Up to 60 feet away, there's lots of spells that are above 60 feet, so I don't know how well that works. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. If the creature is casting a spell of 3rd level or lower, the spell fails and has no effect. It is casting a spell of 4th level or higher. Make an ability check using your spellcasting ability, 10 plus the spell level. On a success, the creature's spell fails and has no effect. At high levels, when you cast a spell using a slot of 4th level or higher, it automatically stops. Spells of that level or lower. Nice little spell, I suppose. Except then I kept going and found Dispel Magic. Okay, 3rd level Abjuration, Counterspell, 3rd level Abjuration. Casting time is 1 action, not 1 reaction for Dispel Magic. Okay, so there's at least a difference. Dispel Magic has a larger range, 120 feet. Verbal, semantic, duration, instantaneous. So this is, you would have to set yourself a trigger. That person casts a spell, I'm going to use Dispel Magic. Okay, so there is a slight difference. Choose 1 creature, object or magical effect within range. At any spell of 3rd level or lower, that target ends. For each spell of 4th level or higher, the target makes it. It's the same spell. Why didn't you just have Dispel Magic? It's the same spell. The wording is almost exactly the same. There are slight differences. The range is different. The range is different, and the casting time's different. But it's so frustrating. Now I went through and I had a look at the charm person, which is a common spell for people to take. Charm person in this is weak. Casting time 1 action. Its duration is an hour. That's it. In every other version of D&D, it has been at least 24 hours or more. I don't know why you have dumbed down the utility spells, but beefed up the evoking spells. Is it because you think that that's the only things people want to play? I've had talks with other people, they are just going to swap out the spell system. Okay? The spells are that bad, they're going to swap in Pathfinder spells, or 3rd edition spells, or 2nd edition spells. And I don't know what I'm going to do. If I continue to play this game, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is a big section of the thing which has just gone to, you want to play a wizard? Well, don't expect them to be anything like they have been in the past. Yeah, it's really frustrating. I don't know why. I don't know why they've done it, but they have really beefed up anything that does damage and cut back anything that doesn't. Okay? With this, I actually went through and used the basic red book and had a look at some of the common spells as well, and, you know, even those are like, I mean, I thought, oh, well, if they're going to be soft anywhere, it'll be in that, and no, this is the softest set of spells I've ever come across. Shield. Oh, I'm so glad I flicked and saw that. Shield. Your wonderful, wonderful shield spell, magicians. It lasts for 1 round now. There is no point learning shield at all. It lasts for 1 round. That's it. It disappears afterwards. Okay, so you use a 1st level slot, it lasts for 1 round. You can't beef it up or anything like that. It gives you a +5 bonus to AC and stops any magic missiles, but it'll only last 1 round. Okay, so that's my grumpiness out of the way. They then move into the appendices. They do the deities. They give you the conditions. Conditions are all nice and easy and simple to follow. I like it. They talk about the planes of existence and do that reasonably well. Then they give you some critter stats and some inspirational reading, which is also quite good. So, this book troubles me. It's a beautiful book. It's a game that everybody's familiar with. It's a game that everybody's excited with. I'm probably going to get a whole heap of hate mail about this post, but I really do feel that the magician or the magic spells in this is completely and utterly horrible. Multi-classing is horrible. There are just sections of this book that scream to me, we're going to release source books. Lots and lots of source books, which will give you lots and lots more options. Now, that's one of my major problems with this book. When I buy a Players Handbook, I want to feel like I can just buy that, the Monster Manual, maybe the DMG. DMG is not so important to me anymore. But, of course, it's got the magical items in it, so there's the purchase point. I want to be able to buy those 3 books and think to myself, I can play D&D for the rest of my life. I don't feel that with this book. I feel that there's too few options with too many of the classes, and I feel that that's because they're going to be releasing lots of source books. Source book bloat. Like, I mean, when I gave up 4th edition, which was only about a year into it, they were on to Players Handbook 3. Okay, I don't want that situation again. I want Players Handbook and then maybe some option books to come out. That's fine. You can buy the option books or not, but the Players Handbook should have everything in it for your base classes. Pathfinder does that really well. This looks like they're not going to do it well. I can't comment and with any certainty that they are. That's just my own personal feeling. It has made moves in the right direction. It makes you think about the role-playing aspects of it. That is one of the fantastic things about this edition. They actually do spend a lot of time asking you questions about, okay, when you were a paladin, you've got to think about how you came about your oath and how that affects you in your daily life and what you do to reflect that. And that's a really, really good thing for them to be saying for you to understand. And I do like that they've gone along that avenue. But there's too much in there. The multi-classing is horrible. The feats are too powerful for me. I had this discussion yesterday with Cameron Cornick, and he was like, I like them. I like that you get an attribute bonus and stuff like that. So that's probably really is just me. The spells, though, he and I are both agreed on, and I've had discussions with other people about the spells, and they generally agree that they are we just don't understand why they did that to the spell system. There's heaps and heaps of people excited about this game, and well, you should be. It's a nice game, it's a nice, fun, light-on game. Although, where I say light-on, I used to think that this was rules light. After reading the book, I don't now. There are a lot of rules in this particular book that you need to be thinking about. Okay, so, but on the whole, it's a nice light game. It's not simulationist. Now, I'm going to cop a whole heap of grief about that as well. Pathfinder's not simulationist. They're all fantasy games. They're abstract representations of rules to represent a fantasy environment. Now, this does that very lightly. Okay, there's you know, your wizard can take a leveling fighter, and then all of a sudden all those finite little finger details that they need to make when they're casting spells disappear because he's proficient with the armour. And the gauntlets that you possibly can't actually move your fingers in different directions with don't affect them that way. Yes, I know, I really hate that rule. So, what I want you to do is take it on your own. Cameron says to me, yeah, but look at you, you're a Pathfinder fanboy. I don't feel I'm a Pathfinder fanboy. I like Pathfinder. I like planning too. I like sitting down as a GM and thinking things through and writing my adventures and stuff like that. Sorry, Stuart McDermott, but I do. He's always trying to get me into games that, you know, that have little to no prep at all these days. But I like the prep. It's interesting to me. So you can take my review with a grain of salt if you want, but these things do exist in one form or another. I came at this with an open mind 2 weeks ago, playing the starter set before I started reading this. I was thinking, how much can I get for my Pathfinder books? Looks like we're going D&D. Everybody's excited about this. I just thought to myself, you know, if there were major things wrong with this game, I would know about it by now. And there were bits and pieces around the edges. As soon as I got this book, I've bought the monster manual. It's coming. But there's bits and pieces about this book that just, they're wrong. Things have changed a great deal. Wizards, sorcerers are the same flavour. I'm fairly certain you could add in the warlock as well and have one single magic user class. Here are the different streams. Sorcerer and wizards are pretty much very, very similar. The warlocks, to me, they have done their spell. The warlock difference is that they've done their spells a little bit differently, and I don't understand the point of it, quite honestly. And I'm not sure what sort of effect it would see in play. So I'm keen to have a warlock in my group. And in fact, I do have a warlock in my group, though, after killing 3 players off in the Mines of Fandelver last week. I've said to them they can make their own characters, and one of them's created a warlock. So one of them's created a dragonborn fighter, and my daughter doesn't even know that her character died last week, so better get around to telling her that. So, yeah, take my review with a grain of salt if you want. Get a hold of this book, borrow it from a friend, and have a look at it. Have a look at the spells. If you're a wizard character player, go to your go-to spells. Have a look at them. Things like Hypnotic Pattern and Colour Spray are just completely worthless now. Okay, this idea of concentration. Now, I did say to Cameron that I'm going to talk to the concentration thing, and I'll talk to it now. You are theoretically only allowed to concentrate on one spell, regardless of whether you're first level or 20th level. So if you're maintaining your stone skin to get resistances to damage, then you can't create a wall of stone because that requires concentration up to 10 minutes. You can't witch bolt them because that requires concentration up to a minute. So these things are there. Okay. Also, if you take damage while you're concentrating, you've got to make a roll, but push that to the side. I think that's not great. I don't think that represents a truly powerful mage or a truly powerful mage idea. So we came up with an idea of linking the amount of spells that you can cast with your proficiency in casting spells. I said to Cameron that in my game, I am likely to house rule this, so you can maintain or concentrate on a number of spells equal to your proficiency bonus -1. Now, proficiency bonus starts at 2, so at -1, that limits you to one concentrating spell at the start of your career. Once you hit level 4, I think it is, maybe 5, your proficiency bonus goes up 1, so you can then concentrate on 2 spells and so on, until you get up to a proficiency bonus of +5, +6, where you get to concentrate on 5 spells or so. To me, that fixes the problem. Okay, so that's an easy fix. But I still don't think they should have brought concentration in. You should have been able to expend the magical energy like you have done in every other version of this game, and the spell takes hold. Okay, wall of stone. I'm going to stick it over there, I expend my magical energy, there's a wall of stone. Oh no, hang on, to make it permanent I now need to concentrate for 10 minutes. And I can't do anything apart from let go these absolutely huge bangy spells until then. So that's it, that's my review over and done with. You can see why I didn't want to write that, because it's huge. So hopefully I've kept your interest up until this point. Let me know in the comments what you think, and hey, get out there, roll some dice, enjoy role playing. If it's D&D, good on you. Just probably not for me still. I'm still likely to follow my Pathfinder roots because, I don't know, they just seem well thought out comparatively, but they're not the same game anymore. Pathfinder is not D&D anymore. D&D is now 5th edition D&D, and it's not got the same focus that Pathfinder does, so they're two different games. If you like D&D 5e, play it. It is fun. I have had a ball playing these two games that I'm running, but I have noticed that I'm going to the rules more and more as I get into it, because I want to find out more about it. So play them, have fun, keep on rolling. Catch you next time.